right, we're continuing our coverage on Hurricane Floyd as it makes its way.
Ponce Beach reported a sustained wind of 81 with gusts to 105. From I-95, Rocky Mount, Wilson, Goldsboro, the Edgecombe County area, 12 inches of rain has come down. More rain coming down. That will aggravate the situation out there.
It rained that night. It's rain more than I had ever seen.
I said, for this storm category 4, where the water gonna go? The river was already full, remember?
The town of Princeville is historic. Now Hurricane Floyd is part of the town's story.
Today, the town is underwater, accessible only by boat.
FEMA thought that Princeville should sell the properties and move on to another place, but it was up to Princeville to decide whether they wanted to take a buyout or have the dike rebuilt.
Yes.
The river was what made this area. We were the frontier. Tarboro was established in 1760, and it became a commercial center, so that by 1787 it almost became the capital of North Carolina. It was one of the fastest growing colonial towns inland. We've got Tarboro here, and you can see Tarboro is in the curve of the river.
The area was dominated by a planter aristocracy made up of large slaveholders. They controlled the social, economic, and political life of the region.
Can you see my blood hanging? Hanging on that yonder hill. Can you see my blood hanging? Hanging on that yonder.
I think what must be remembered is that there was always a kind of viable black community. There was always this invisible institution known as the church. There was a sizable free black population, and they become the basis for greater membership, you know, when slavery comes to an end in 1865.
Look at the river growing. Look at the tears in my children's eyes.
I think in order to understand what happens after the federal government, in effect, abandons these slaves, is that you have to understand the quality of the land on which they're residing. When you have low-lying land, such as that is in Princeville, of course, you're susceptible to flooding, and along with flooding come disease, poor sanitary conditions. You couldn't cultivate it very well because it was simply poor land.
When the call for freedom comes about, people are congregating and forming these all-black communities. Land represents the basis of freedom. And so those individuals who formed those communities were about the business of land.
All of Princeville is very small. You know, the original Princeville was given to the slaves, you know, when they freed the slaves, and some of them settled in this little small town around here.
There were many of these could have been Princevilles. The kicker, though, is when you get to a point where you can actually organize to the extent that you become an incorporated town.
Princeville signified another element of self-determination when they were determined to set up their own government. That was quite an ambitious project just a few years, less than a generation, after emancipation.
Tarboro was the slave capital for the state of North Carolina. So you have the slave capital and you got the first town that was built by slaves, you know, right across the river, one from the other. And I think that's a tremendous bit of history to actually know about.
Savior Jesus Christ, and also to the mother, deacon, sister, saints, brothers, and friends. We'll be glad to be back at Mount Zion one more time on this side of the river.
Your churches, they served as meeting places and safe haven places to discuss certain issues that were facing the community. In the church, people are very vocal, especially in the Baptist church, and they shouted out. Well, where you held all this stuff in, did you know you couldn't say anything to that white person. But you could cry it out in church, you could shout it out, you could pray it out. And you didn't have to go to church, you could do it right there in your yard and gardening. You could chop those heads off when you were chopping down there, or if you were digging, or if you went out there to pull the flowers up, you could just pinch those heads off. And so you had to develop these survival techniques and these little mechanisms that you couldn't show your true feelings then, but you could have that emotional release.
Are you waiting for your king? We shall return again. Are you waiting?
Princeville is a part of an ongoing theme of if they won't accept us, then we have to do for ourselves. Between 1880 and 1920, black solidarity and self-help became a major theme in the black community, because by the 1880s, blacks saw that the federal government was not going to embrace them. Surely the states in the South were not going to embrace them and help them live out the creed of America.
Yeah, he told me one morning that in this world you will have hard trials and great tribulation, but in me you will have peace.
Now, when the first came on town, it was all black. We had our mayor, we had our commissioners, we had our jailer, we had our policemen, and everything. We had a jailhouse, courthouse, and all of that our own. We did all our business with no whites involved over in Princeville.
We are right at the gateway into Princeville from Tarboro. This road where the dike is on is the old colonial road. And most of the people that lived on this street were associated with the river. They did a lot of fishing, they did a lot of boating, and they also had worked on the steamboats when they came into Tarboro.
In the beginning, Princeville was just a town with a lot of shacks, and down by the bridge, they had little houses on stilts.
But I knew about the homes on the banks of the river and everything. I knew about people living down there near the river. And they told me why those people were living there to begin with. They didn't have anywhere else to go. And the people lived there for years, and they seemed to be happy to be there. And I knew the people, a lot of the people that lived there. I could go all the way from the bridge all the way down at one time and name everybody on the street, but I can't do that now.
Sharecropper was like slavery. From January, beginning of the year, to December, the end of the year, you worked on that farm. Then at the end of the year, when if you was a sharecropper, then you had to set up with that farm owner for your property. You may walk out of there with some money, you may end up owing him some money.
They used to weigh it, put some weight on some poles, that's all it was. But they would never show no receipts so that they could pay us less. But they were getting a lot more for their money.
Y'all, I know wrong way y'all never hear that, but see, they was on the farm before they left here. When they went up the farm, they said,
They pull some more than I go around the other trough the next time. At that time, we used to pay our mules all day for 50 cents a day. And I got $2.50 a week long that time, and somebody want to know what time it goes and what time you knock off. But I told them the sun was the time then. So you stayed there till it went down.
Because the mule stable used to be right there. Yeah, they have a mule stable right there.
What the music do?
And shoot, that daggone mule, he'll come out there, you always got one mule that ain't gonna act right.
Catch a big armful, sometimes you had to take a barrel and lay it down here on the ground like that and break some more, because the mule done went way up in the field. See how I'm sweating now? Back there then, you stayed wet all day long out there in the sun like it is now. You stayed wet all day out there pound to back.
Then by the time the sun came out, you dried off a little bit, then you start sweating. So you got wet again.
And back gum all that.
Back gum all that, where the blame mule.
And then a lot of time, money don't come. Don't bring so much a pound. You just, like you just work whole year for nothing.
Work all the year sometimes, the man say he broke even. Then you got the, he'll lend you maybe about $25 or $30 somewhere in that area so you get something for Christmas, then you end debt with him then for the next year. So it was tough long then.
We're talking about sharecropping.
Yeah.
You don't still have any work clothes, do you?
No, don't have any. Don't want to see none of them now. don't want none of them, no, sir. It called back that hard way.
But we had fun doing it, you know, getting together, having this neighbor prepare for the winter. And then we'll go to another neighbor. Then neighbors come in and help us do the same thing.
They raised their own vegetables, they raised their chickens, and they raised hogs and everything on their land at that time.
We didn't have no lights over here. We didn't have no lights, we had lamps. It was a long time before Princeville got electricity. It was a long time before Princeville got running water. So we had pumps.
We could get water out of it. Do it like that. Of course, it'll still work now if I had a sucker on it. See right there. This was the old bathroom, right here.
Outhouse was sitting way off from the house. You had to walk a little distance. Thank God I don't have to do that no more. That was a day. Then my living shall not be in vain.
When I was coming up, you could not go in the cafe because they had white and black cafes. If they said white only white people could go there. You had to go around the back and order what you want to stay out there and eat it. So we didn't bother those. We had black cafes that we could go and sit down.
So back then, it was either black, even the bathroom, the fountains, everything had a sign saying black, white, black, white. General D. Lewis, he had a friend, of course I know the friend, he was very outspoken. And then said they had a sign, had a water fountain, had it black, white. Said his friend went over there and drank down there. Said white, he went drink down there white. Said some old white man came out and said, boy, can't you read? He said, yes sir. Said, well why you drink out that fountain? I just want to see what white water tastes like. I want to see what the white water tastes like.
We had a few stores in our community. Glennis Store. That's the old store where you see now that's been shelled out. The kids would go there. That was one of the community stores also.
Oh gosh, it was, as you've heard, it's sort of a central gathering place. I would go once in a while and sit with my uncle or aunt and roll down a chair or a Coke box or something and listen to the old timers sit and talk about the boxing matches or the baseball games or the horse races and things of that sort, you know.
A counter ran from here, about here, all down part there.
It had canned goods, cigarettes, and all that sort of thing on the shelves over there. And the cash register was right here on the edge of this counter.
We used to call it the juke joints that we used to go to. We used to call it the hole in the wall. And we had another place that we would always go. We would call it the Cleo's.
My mom had a store just in the area out in the yard where you see the cement slab, and they call it Cleo's Place, but it was really Hillside Drive-In.
We used to come to parties. Remember the club? We used to have a club in Princeville. We'd dance the night away.
The twist, you know, we would do the twist on a song like this, you know, and then we would shake a leg and then we would spin around and then we would do this James Brown and back up, you know.
You know, that was a good time.
Yeah.
My daddy had the garage right beside the store, which was Hillside Garage, and it was there for years. I have a picture of the garage and the store when they were tearing it down. So it brings back a lot of memories. A lot of memories.
Before they built the dike in Princeville, whenever it rained and the river rose, my grandmother used to tell me how they used to have to ride a boat from the other side of Princeville just to come to town because the river rose.
They used to come by boat when they had to come to Tarboro, and they used to come across Princeville on a boat, and just the chimneys were sticking out.
The last flood I remember before flood was in 1958. We had to leave home then because I couldn't get to the stores or anything.
The water came up in the 30s and 40s and 50s. I remember the 50s. Washed the house out. They dried it out, water went down, and they went back to living. It used to flood all the time like that. But see, they hadn't built the dike then.
Mr. Ed Bridges is one of my models of leadership, of foresight, of vision, and he and our uncle are responsible for getting the dike built in the first place. It would have seemed to be a no-brainer, you know, if you want people to live in this area, give them some protection, put a dike up, because they'd had a series of floods over the years. But because of those two men and their vision, and they're just, you know, kept hammering away, they finally got it done.
Come on, baby, help me to stand the door. Oh, come on, baby, help me to stand the door. Now I play down the street, but we really gonna rock and roll.
You know, before integration of the schools, I worked with the school system. I worked for 6 years. We had to go to Washington for a hearing concerning integration of the school to see what was the desire for the people in our community. And I felt that we would benefit more if the schools were integrated and all of the children would be treated alike in the community. We did have some people that wasn't pleased with it, but in order to make better for yourself, you got to make a change.
Change is gonna come.
Hello?
Oh, yes,
All right. Yeah, man. Look. What are you doing today? He want to interview, you know, a couple of guys on the corner where we used to stand out on Church Street. and just talk about Princeville for, you know, a couple of minutes.
See him for a little while.
But back then, see, we didn't have all these street lights around here. We had one corner light. You had to go with somebody to come and turn the light on.
And we used to run, try to turn on the light. Be the first one to turn on the light. We come right here, turn that light on. We get right down there, and we were kind of scattered right down there because that's where the Mount Zion Church at. It seemed like that statue used to follow us. I used to, every time I get there, I would turn my head and walk, and then I'd turn the light on. That was in the mid-70s. The mid-70s, that went on to the mid-70s. We didn't know at that time that this was the oldest town in America chartered by black. Only thing we know was we was having fun. Yeah.
It was a fun struggle.
Right. Yeah.
It was chartered by black. It was a fun struggle, though.
He hit it right on the head.
It was a fun struggle.
He came into my life. Yeah, he spoke to my dying soul. Yeah, morning, and I feel now. I don't die one
That dike had been there, had been able to hold all the water since it had been built. So nobody had an idea that we would get that kind of water.
Today the town is underwater, accessible only by boat.
David, it really is hard to believe that it's as bad as what we've been told, but it truly is, and you're going to see some pictures in just a minute here that you are not going to believe.
When we first had our meeting, it seemed like we really didn't know what to do. We weren't getting all the answers we wanted to get. The buyout was for the government to buy your land house so you could move elsewhere. And I really thought I wouldn't be able to come back.
When it was time to cast our votes, I also voted not to have the buyout because there were people that wanted to come back home, and I felt like that outweighed the buyout.
We had to get our people back in Princeville. We didn't want to lose our town, so the people what makes the town.
With repairing the dike a done deal, residents must now turn their attention to rebuilding their homes. They will partly depend on FEMA money the Princeville Board will be distributing. With more than 2,000 residents to account for, it could take a while.
You saw miracle coming. After a while, life started coming back in you. After you saw people really came down that cared. You know, you saw people, you asked them where they from. They from Massachusetts. Where they from? They from New York. Where they from? They're from Maryland. Where you from? Florida. It just, I never seen nothing like it.
Well, I feel proud to be among such noble people because down through the years, it's been a hard struggle for people in Princeville, and I feel like my time with Princeville was historical in that the flood came and basically destroyed the town, but I had a part in rebuilding that town.
That's why a whole lot of people, even though we go all over the world and come back home, we come back home to stay. Because no place like home, and that's true.
This is The State of Things. I'm Rusty Jacobs. What we're hearing now is the sound of a birthday celebration held last Friday at the St. Luke Church of Christ in Princeville. Residents of Princeville were celebrating the birthday of their town, which was founded 120 years ago this week.
Like
you must help in Princeville because your dignity, your pride, your perseverance, your courage, represented in your coming back from adversity. Black folks have taught the world how to translate adversity into opportunity.
We are hardworking people. We're dedicated people because of the fact we did not run away from the town when others wanted us to shut Princeville down, to take the buyout, to turn it into just a zone where no one lived. But we did not want to lose what belonged to us.
Princeville has demonstrated the fact that African Americans can cope with dangers, toils, and snares. And I'm especially proud, and it's commendable that they were able to overcome what happened in 1999. The people of Princeville have been able to take what they were given and nurture it and even multiply it and move on toward what they hope and what I hope is a bright future.
For anybody to have been born in the oldest town in America chartered by black, they should be proud.
It's just us. Lead. This side of the river. Been through it all, but we won't move. Thought we would fall, but we won't lose. Live from Princeville, heard her name, gotta watch us. Live from Princeville, hurricanes couldn't stop us. We've been through it all, but we won't move. Thought we would fall, but we won't lose. Live from Princeville, heard the name, gotta watch us. Live from Princeville, hurricanes couldn't stop us. A slave is how they want me, in a cage like Johnny. But I broke chains, got free. What? No way to block me. We had our own dreams, so we made our own thing. We made our own rules and made our own schools. We made our own stores, our troops in their own war. Pray that they come home. We try to make a home. Believe it's real. We'll see.